Okay, all. Welcome. I'm Kerry Lutz. This is the Financial Survival Network, and it's time for another Triple Lutz report. This is episode 476. Been doing these now, well, going on 8 years. Hard to believe. They're my special blend of commentary, opinion, and fact, in liberal doses of each, I might add. And want to talk more about the setup of the Democratic primaries of the election now, what's taking place. 1,990 pledged delegates to get the nomination. Easier said than done. There's somewhere around 4,600 total pledged delegates, and normally not a difficult thing. But when we look now, I'm telling you, my opinion is that the entire election season here has been rigged, and it's been rigged to ensure that nobody will win the nomination. Nobody will hit the magic 1990 number. And if we look at the polls right now, Biden is leading at 27.6%. Bernie Sanders comes in at 18.8%. Warren, 15%. Buttigeg is at 9%, and Bloomberg at 5.6%. Now, in order to get delegates in a primary contest, you've got to get at least 15% of the vote. And 15% of the vote shouldn't be that hard. But right now you've got four candidates who are competing, who are taking votes away from each other. Now, if we look at Biden and Buttigeg, they total almost 37% of the vote. Right now, Biden's delegate estimate is 1411, and Buttigieg's is 77. So even if you added them together, Biden probably would not be able to hit it if Buttigieg had dropped out now. But he's not going to drop out because his sponsors, who's ever pushing him to run, saying, look, we know you're not going to win here, Pete. Mayor Pete, you don't have a chance, but you just might be somebody's VP nominee. We want you to stay in. And he keeps managing to get financing, and he keeps managing to stay in the race. If you add Bernie Sanders and Lizzie Warren, Pocahontas together, you would come up with 34% of the vote, and 1,990 pledged delegates to get the nomination. Easier said than done. There's somewhere around 4,600 total pledged delegates, and normally not a difficult thing. But when we look now, I'm telling you, my opinion is that the entire election season here has been rigged, and it's been rigged to ensure that nobody will win the nomination. Nobody will hit the magic 1990 number. And if we look at the polls right now, Biden is leading at 27.6%. Bernie Sanders comes in at 18.8%. Warren, 15%. Buttigeg is at 9%, and Bloomberg at 5.6%. Now, in order to get delegates in a primary contest, you've got to get at least 15% of the vote. And 15% of the vote shouldn't be that hard. But right now you've got four candidates who are competing, who are taking votes away from each other. Now, if we look at Biden and Buttigieg, they total almost 37% of the vote. Right now, Biden's delegate estimate is 1411, and Buttigieg's is 77. So even if you added them together, Biden probably would not be able to hit it if Buttigieg had dropped out now. But he's not going to drop out because his sponsors, who's ever pushing him to run, saying, look, we know you're not going to win here, Pete. Mayor Pete, you don't have a chance, but you just might be somebody's VP nominee. We want you to stay in. And he keeps managing to get financing, and he keeps managing to stay in the race. If you add Bernie Sanders and Lizzie Warren, Pocahontas together, you would come up with 34% of the vote, and you'd come up with approximately 1,100 delegates. If you added those numbers together, the delegate total would probably go up because they'd get 15% in some states where they wouldn't get it. So this is a classic vote splitter strategy. And then Bloomberg, he's got 6%. So if we added the 6% to Buttigeg, and that's 9%, so we come up with right around 14.8%, and add that to Biden's 27.6%, he probably would have enough votes to win this thing, but he's not going to get it. Now, Bloomberg, important to realize he doesn't have a prayer here. Hey, he's bored. He's got too much time, too much money on his hands. And it's kind of one of those things, if you remember that movie Casino, at one point, the mob bosses are having a meeting talking about who to get rid of when, push comes to shove because the indictments are coming down. And Alan King's character, he's a loyal soldier. He split up the money. He never talked to the cops, anything. And they vote, they're talking about him and say, he's totally loyal. He'll never turn us in. And then the head boss says, I know, but you never know. So as a result, Alan King gets killed. As a result here, we got the moderate vote, which would be approximately 40+%, 42%, being split three ways, so no moderate can get a vote. Then we also have minor fringe candidates, Yang at 3.4%, Klobuchar 3.4%, and they seem to think that she can achieve 28 delegates. Now, mind you, the first caucus has not started, the Iowa caucus. The first primaries have not started. We've still got a ways to go there, a few months. But the fact, they start in February. But the fact is, the way it stands now, nobody can win. And presumably, Biden is going to lose Iowa and New Hampshire, and then he's going to come and win South Carolina because he's got good appeal for African-American voters. Buttigieg has no appeal, but he's got some white moderates. Buttigieg has no minority appeal whatsoever, and he's not really taken seriously. But whoever is orchestrating this endeavor sees that Buttigieg is a good vote splitter and will stop Biden from taking the nomination. Now, we also have to look at Joe Biden. Last weekend was really awful for him. He gets in a fight with a guy in Iowa over the fact that his son, Hunter, who is completely talentless, has had drug issues, can't get too down on him for that, seems to love to father children. His fifth child has been conceived with his latest wife. He was having an affair with his late brother's wife after Beau passed away. He's not a person of sound moral character. Well, we know that the Ukraine thing is blowing up, and it might not be sinking Biden, but it certainly is making it difficult for him to run his campaign unobstructed. And you can only imagine if he gets up there on the stage with Trump, what's going to happen. I mean, it'll be all Ukraine all the time. And now Giuliani's coming back with yet more information. It appears that Hunter Biden, Joe Biden's son, received $83,000 per month to be on the board of Burisma, never attended a meeting, never visited the Ukraine to check out Burisma's operations, never issued a legal opinion, never did anything, but his father seemed to have cleared the way for Burisma to not be prosecuted by Ukraine prosecutors. This seems beyond a shadow of the doubt. So he's a major, major liability, and Biden doesn't know how to handle it, because Biden his whole life has gotten softball questions The only controversy he had was when he stole some Brit politician's speech and made it his own and got caught, and that kind of knocked him out of a presidential race 30 some odd years ago. Everyone's forgotten about that except for a few of us old people around. Nobody really cares about that. So Biden's vote is split, and you could pretty well say that whether you believe Warren is a real financial, real populist, real socialist or not, she certainly is carving up the pool of Sanders voters. So then we get down to, okay, we get to the convention. What happens then? Now, the interesting thing about the Democrats is that they're so-called pledged delegates. The people that show up on the floor actually don't even have to vote for their pledged candidate on the first vote. So this requires the organizations of these candidates to keep checking on these delegates and make sure that they're kosher, because they can replace them if they turn out to be disloyal. So they get rid of them. This whole thing, the only time the superdelegates will vote is if there's less than 1,990 pledged delegates that vote for the first nominee, on the first vote, rather, at the convention. So ordinarily, they're not going to vote. They're kind of like a tiebreaker function. And all of this is just leading me to say we're going to have some Midwestern governor injected into the process, chosen in a brokered convention. This is what's going to happen. I still like Tim Walz from Minnesota. He's been there a short time, but he's a climate change guy, but he's not so crazily left. He's like your next door neighbor kind of guy, like a young Bernie maybe, or a young Joe Biden, who's to the left, but still is somewhat rational. You got this governor of Michigan, active woman, just stepped into office. This is her first year. That's the problem. Same with the governor of Wisconsin, who also could be a viable candidate, but probably isn't going to be injected into the process because he's too unknown, and he's been all of his initiatives have been sabotaged by the Republican legislature in the state. So it's been very difficult for him to do anything. He's just not viable at this point. And then the other people you have are governors in the far west. You've got like Gavin Newsom, unelectable, incompetent. You see that the state of California is rotting to the core. And there's about 21 Democratic governors. The governor of New Mexico, attractive, Luann Grisham. Got the governor of Guam, the governor of Maine, not a contender. Phil Murphy, communist, he's just never going. They're all gun grabbers. Ralph Northam, governor of Virginia, don't need him, and maybe he'll run in blackface. Pritzker, under investigation, totally corrupt, governor of Illinois. Jared Pauls, he's just not a heavy hitter. Steve Sisolak of Nevada, I just don't see it. Walz seems to be the best candidate, the best person for this purpose. Gretchen Whitmer, she is the governor of Michigan, just stepped into office, very attractive. Remains to be seen if she's a heavyweight. Another guy is Tom Wolf, and, again, not an out-and-out gun grabber. To the left, obviously, but Pennsylvania is a state that the Democrats absolutely have to win. So between the two, Tim Walz, Tom Wolf, those are the two. Andy Cuomo, forget. He's tainted, corruption scandals all over. He's a total vitriolic ideologue who just, at this point in time, is not a viable candidate. The other two candidates, obviously, Hillary Clinton and Michelle Obama. So like I've said before, I don't see Michelle Obama wanting to do this. One thing about Michelle Obama, everyone loves her, She's never been challenged. She's never not had a softball interview. And once the heat really turns up on her, she can't take it. Right? Hillary Clinton, the one thing you have to realize is that this is all Machiavellian. It's all taking place behind the scenes. So when you look and you say, who are the most Machiavellian people in the Democratic Party, the two that come up are Hillary Clinton and, well, three, the Obamas. So if this is being manipulated from behind the scenes, it would probably be one of them. But, or maybe both. Maybe they have an agreement. But you do have this moderate core that is being alienated by these fringe candidates. And it's not so much the moderates on the coast that matter or in the far Pacific Northwest. It is the moderates in the Midwest who really count, who are going to decide the election. And the people most able to garner these votes are Tim Walz and Tom Wolf. Hillary goes in there. She's going to be really, oh, well, this time I learned from my mistakes of the past. I'm going to Wisconsin to campaign, and I'm going to Pennsylvania and Michigan and Minnesota. She's going to have to go there because that's in play now. It just isn't going to work. She didn't connect with those people before. She's not going to connect with them now. At least these governors of Pennsylvania, a large state that's doing pretty well under Trump. So that makes Tom Wolf a problematic candidate. Same thing with Tim Walz. But they are the best of a really bad hand. So we get to the convention, not going to be decided. It's going to be a real divisive convention. The one thing I want to mention is that the Republican convention last time was perfectly articulated. It was a perfect Trump show for him to showcase his vision. They always have to have a make-believe dispute, and that was Ted Cruz's job there. It's just like when you see a love story in the movies. It's no good if two people meet, fall madly in love, and then their relationship is perfect. They go on, and then they get married. I mean, who's going to pay to see that garbage? No, you want controversy. You want to instill in the audience the belief that, they're drifting apart, they've had a fight, they've broken up, they might not get together, and then a catalytic, precipitative event occurs, they get back together, they kiss, they fall back in love. Actually, they were never not in love, and they get married and live happily ever after. Whether it's a gay couple, lesbian, whatever it is, that's the way love stories work in the movies. That is the way conventions work in real life. You've got to have a controversy that seems to split the party apart and then brings them back together. On the other hand, the Democratic convention was a total cluster you-know-what. First day of the convention, all the emails get dumped, the WikiLeaks emails. Debbie Washerwoman Schultz is forced to resign as head of the party, and it's straight downhill from there. The Bernie voters are being disenfranchised. The Bernie voters are being abused. The Bernie voters are being treated terribly. And what happens? We have a divided convention that the media says was a work of harmonic beauty. Everyone got along, just like Rodney King. Why can't we all get along? They all got along, and they'll all live happily ever after, and Hillary will be elected. But the truth was far from that. And that is what we're going to see yet again in the next Democratic Party. True divisiveness, people wanting to kill each other. There will be violence on or near the convention area. And this is what we're going to have to look forward to. So that's my take on things. Let's see how it plays out. Let's see what happens after their so-called Super Tuesday. My guess is that vote's going to be split to shreds, and then we'll have to wait for the convention for the real candidate to emerge from behind the curtain. It's one of those four: Tom Wolf, Tim Walz, Michelle Obama, which is a dark horse, improbable one. She hated the White House, doesn't want to go back there, is real happy buying multi-million-dollar mansions around the globe and never having to see Barack except by appointment only. And then Hillary, who, if she orchestrated this so she wouldn't have to go through a primary season, that she didn't have to either lose or steal, then this could be her coming out yet again. Anyways, that's it for now. This is Kerry Lutz. Been another Triple Lutz Report, signing off.